Hello and welcome to the Connected Storytelling show here at IBC 2019 at the Vizrt booth. Connected storytelling is all about simplifying the everyday for the journalists so they can tell more stories for more platforms while we reduce the technical complexity. So that's really what we're going to talk about today. Not so much AR graphics as a storytelling tool, more the efficiencies of workflow as storytelling enablers. So we have been pioneering journalist-driven storytelling for a couple of decades now, and we continue to do so with this Vizrt Pilot Edge plugin. This Pilot Edge allows us to enable the journalists to access all the different storytelling elements that they will have and bring them together on their own desktop. So here we can preview, for instance, our video content. We can check that out and bring that together with our graphics seamlessly, and they can see how the result will be when it goes to air or online. So as you can see here, actually what you see here today is not a recorded clip. Actually, it's our journalist, our in-house journalist, Non, and he's filling this out as we're speaking. So he can fill this out, and he can save that down into Pilot Edge. So you can get a preview of the timing, the text, and so on, all from his user interface. All right, so when he has done this, we can save it down, and then it's stored at something we call metagraphics. Metagraphics is all about bringing video and graphics together stored as metadata. That means that the system knows everything about the produced content, and we can actually optimize it for any platform that we're distributing to. Instagram or on-air or Facebook Live, for instance, and it will look perfect for that platform. So that is the planning of the story and the news workflow. But we're now going to take a step into the control room and our studio automation workflows. Our studio automation products are getting a new family member. We're releasing a new product here at IBC. We have taken three major parts and put them together in one system. The first one is mastery of IP. We mix NDI 2110 IP streams and also together with SDI to get a perfect mastery of the IP protocol as well as SDI. Then we combine that with a software-driven switcher, taking the traditional hardware switcher and porting that into software. That means that the switcher continues to grow with the market's needs without having to upgrade the hardware. And the third part is the automation part. We're a leader in studio automation, and we continue to take this workflow and mindset into this product as well. And we call it Verdi. So Verdi is released here at IBC, and it's a brand new product that takes switching power and automation and puts that together. It fits together with the two other automation products. So it has Opus as the small studio in the box, caters to small productions. We have this Verdi in the mid segment, fitting nicely between, has a compact form factor, but has a lot of power. And then we have Mosart at the top end, the enterprise level automation system, fully customizable, allows you to automate your existing control room. So all of these have different functionality, but they have the same user interface and user experience. And that is key, because we want to use software to enable the director, the live storyteller, to tell the best stories. And we want to do that regardless of if it's a small broadcast with this Opus or a large one with Primetime and this Mosart. That studio automation controls all the aspects of the production, so we can do video mixing, audio mixing, graphics, video playback, and all the other things that we want to do in the studio, simply operated by a software interface, by a director in the studio. And in fact, you have been seeing everything that you've been seeing in this presentation has already been driven by our studio automation system. But we can also take control back. So in addition to operate this in the control room, we could potentially also operate this in the studio. And we do this in many cases. Actually, several of our customers are doing presenter-driven production. So that means that they can create, for instance, production based on a clicker or a small keypad, or like this, a tablet that allows me to operate my broadcast. So here I could, for instance, change some of the aspects of my production, like the look of my studio. So if I go to an entertainment segment, move into a sports segment, and then end up with a news segment, for instance, I could do that. And since I'm controlling all the broadcast devices, including my wall, lights, and so on, I can quickly turn around and maximize the utilization of, for instance, my studio space. Now I'm going to give you a control back, so you can take control over our news production. And news is one of the great applications for this automation. So news, we're allowed to do a lot of sophisticated things in a simple manner. So let's start with our news production and see how this works. So here you see that we're starting off with our opening clip, and here we're controlling all the aspects, not only the clip playback, but really the routing of the sources to the video wall, the routing to program output, as well as audio, graphics, and video on top of that. We can also go and take this simplistic mindset into another area. For instance, here, we're a 2-box. So here, instead of having to learn how to, control the keys on the vision mixer, operate a big panel, the director can do this on their switcher, on the automation software as well. So here we can switch the sources, easy and simple in the software UI. One more example of news production is data-driven graphics. So if you go to the data-driven graphics, you can see that we can also tell really complex data-driven stories within the same workflow. So my director can just hit and take that graphics on air, and you can see that it integrates seamlessly with our data platform. So we can take live data in and really create this very nice graphics. Now, you get a little bit of insight of how our studio automation works and also how we plan the stories in our newsroom. But the real power becomes when we're putting the two together. So that's what we're going to do now, and taking the story that we created earlier. So we're going to take that story and bring it to many platforms at the same time. And what you can see here is that we're actually taking that graphics that we planned earlier, and it automatically adapts to the other platforms in our studio. So here, if I want to, for instance, create a phone version, the text is maybe a little bit larger, maybe the size of the CG is a little bit smaller, and so on, to fit that screen optimally. And we can do that without increasing the complexity for the director. On top of that, we can also bring in other types of graphics. For instance, our data-driven graphics again. This is the one you saw earlier, but down here on the phone version, you can see that we're maximizing the utilization of our screen space by really stacking them in a different way for that version. So that means that viewers can get optimal viewer experience and the operators can focus still on the story. Let's do one more example, and that's the DVE template. So here is also my DVE, and we can also have a look at how that works. This is thanks to the powerful switcher in Verdi. We're able to do this in a very compact form factor. So here you can see we can still change the boxes, we can still stack and move things around thanks to the 8 MEs that's in Verdi. So here we can do different operations for different platforms, but it's still as simple for the director. So that means that we can plan things easily, we can put all these things directly to online platforms, or we can bring them to air with our Viz automation tools. But we want to further monetize our content, and that's really what we're doing here today. So while I've been showing you this and talking here, we have actually also been live ingesting our content into our Viz One content management system. That means that I can access this growing file from any of our Vizrt applications or third-party applications through APIs. So here is one of our applications that can use this growing file. This is Viz Story, our online publishing and media creation tool. Just as in Pilot Edge, I can identify my files here. I can, for instance, find this one, which is the one I'm creating right now, and I can start looking through this clip. And this is the presentation I just did. So here I can set an in point, an out point in my material, and take that down to my timeline. And just as in Pilot Edge, I can also add graphics to that, fill in the text, and get a real-time preview of how it will look as the final result. Now what you can see here is actually that this is exactly the same user experience as Pilot Edge, and that's of course intentional, because we don't want our journalists to learn different user experiences for different tasks. We want to make their lives simple so they can tell more stories, and that's really what we're doing here. On top of being able to adapt the graphics and also adapting the different aspects, we can also actually adapt the framing of that clip to perfectly fit the platform that we're telling the story on. And this is keyframeable, so I can pan and zoom and tilt all exactly like I want to do to adjust that. I can also preview different versions, so if I have a landscape version, I can do that. You can see the graphics moves over, it becomes nice and 16:9, and I can use this, for instance, for my YouTube version. When I'm happy, I can go down here in my right corner, go to my Publish menu, and then I can just tick the boxes that I want to publish to. I can create a different text, and I can actually add exactly the destination I want. Facebook, YouTube, my web page, my phone, and so on. And the real power here is when I hit publish, that is really the job done for the journalist. So that means that we don't need to think about which versions to render out, waiting for different types of rendering, making sure that we're uploading the right file to the right platform and so on. All that is taken care of by Viz Story in the background. And that is super important, because then we can actually focus much more time on creating stories and less time on technical complexity. When we see broadcasters that have implemented this story today, they have had a spike in productivity when it comes to online publishing. 5 or 6x is the numbers we typically see in terms of online publishing of content. So you can see, we have these 3 powerful interfaces: planning, execution, and repurposing, all of being in our software-defined visual storytelling suite. So we're allowing the journalist to focus on the most important thing, which is the story, rather than technical complexity. More stories, better told. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation. If you have more questions about our studio automation, we have people around here. They can scan your badge and we can send you much more information about our studio automation tools. Enjoy the rest of your show here at IBC. Thank you very much.